Hi there. Welcome back to 8 p.m. Sleep Stories. I'm Joshua, the voice behind tonight's story. And tonight, I'll be here with you as we slowly settle in for the night. And if this is your first time here, I hope tonight's story and the sound of my voice help you relax and gently drift into sleep. And if you enjoy these quiet stories, you're always welcome to subscribe or leave a comment below. It truly helps support the channel and allows me to keep creating more stories for you. Before we begin, just take a moment to settle in, allowing your body to feel supported and at ease. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere else you need to be, just this quiet moment. And now, very gently, our story begins. Far beyond the busy mainland, past the cold northern water and the endless dark cliffs, there is a small island shaped by wind and sea. The island is made of black stone and wet grass. Narrow paths curve between the rocks, worn smooth after many years of rain and salt air. At the center of the island stands an old lighthouse, its white tower rising quietly above the water. Each night, the lantern still turns slowly across the sea. Steady, patient, unchanging. Two old men live beside the tower. Their names are Owen and Martin. Both are old now. Their hair has faded pale with time, and their movements have become slower over the years. Careful movements, quiet movements, the kind that come from long routines repeated thousands of times. Neither man speaks very much, but they have shared the island together for nearly 12 years. As evening approaches, the sky deepens into shades of blue and silver. Cold mist drifts slowly across the water, softening the distant horizon until sea and sky almost seem to disappear into one another. Inside the lighthouse, Owen climbs the narrow iron stairs toward the lantern room. One hand rests against the rail as he climbs. The metal steps feel cold beneath his boots, carrying the familiar scent of salt and old machinery. Above him, the great lantern waits in silence. Owen begins cleaning the thick glass panels carefully, wiping away the thin layer of salt left behind by the sea air. He has done this work for many years now, and yet he still moves with patience, as though the task matters deeply. Perhaps it does. Far below, Martin prepares tea inside the small stone cottage beside the tower. The kettle warms slowly over the stove while soft orange firelight moves gently across the walls. The room smells faintly of cedar wood, old books, and sea air carried in through the cracks near the window. A small clock ticks quietly beside the shelves. Martin places 2 cups on the wooden table, before pausing for a moment to look out toward the darkening water. The ocean is calm tonight. Only small waves move against the rocks below the cliffs, steady and familiar, like breathing. Many years ago, before the island became his home, Owen worked in a harbour town, repairing fishing boats near the docks. His hands were stronger then. His back did not ache each morning when he woke. Long days passed, surrounded by engines, ropes, wooden hulls, and cold rain drifting in from the sea. The harbour was loud in those years, full of voices, metal tools, and restless movement. But even when he was younger, Owen never cared much for noise. After his wife passed away many winters ago, the town no longer felt familiar to him. Everything seemed smaller than before. faster, too crowded. So when work became available at the remote lighthouse, he accepted without hesitation. At first, he planned to remain only one season, but slowly, the silence of the island changed him. The slow rhythm of the sea, the turning lantern above the tower, the long evenings wrapped in fog and cold wind, all of it began to feel natural. And so he stayed. Martin arrived several years later. Before coming to the island, he had spent most of his life teaching history in a small coastal village on the mainland. For decades, his classroom had been filled with questions, restless children, and the constant sound of small footsteps moving across wooden floors. He enjoyed teaching. He truly did. But as the years passed, Martin began to feel tired in a way that sleep alone could not fix. Not unhappy, simply worn down by noise, schedules, crowded streets, and the feeling that every hour of the day belonged to someone else. After retirement, he traveled quietly between small seaside towns for a time, never staying very long in any one place. Then, one winter evening, during rough weather near the northern coast, he arrived at the Lighthouse Island aboard an old supply boat. The visit was only supposed to last 2 nights. But something about the island stayed with him. Perhaps it was the endless horizon beyond the cliffs. Perhaps it was the quiet turning light above the sea. Or perhaps it was simply the strange comfort of a place that demanded nothing from him. When the older assistant keeper eventually retired, Martin accepted the position without much hesitation. And like Owen before him, he never returned to mainland life again. Now their days move quietly together, following the slow rhythm of the lighthouse. Very little changes here. Once each month, the supply boat arrives carrying food, lamp oil, letters, and small tools from the mainland. The boat remains only a short while before disappearing once again beyond the fog. The rest of the time, the island belongs only to the wind, the lighthouse, and the sea. Each evening follows nearly the same pattern, and both men seem comforted by this. Owen checks the lantern machinery carefully, listening to the low turning sound inside the tower, while Martin records the weather in an old journal beside the window. Temperature, wind direction, fog levels, wave conditions. His handwriting remains neat and steady after so many years of teaching. Later, the two men sit together near the stove with warm tea and simple meals. Sometimes there is soup, sometimes bread with butter brought from the mainland supply boat. Their conversations are never rushed. They speak quietly about winter storms from years ago, old fishing boats, distant harbors, or seabirds resting near the cliffs. At times, several minutes pass without either man speaking at all. But the silence never feels uncomfortable. Outside, the lighthouse beam continues sweeping slowly across the dark sea. Again and again, steady as breathing. There is one thing, however, that neither man fully understands. Something that happens only once each year, always near the end of autumn, when the nights grow colder and mist drifts low across the water. The whale returns. Martin first saw it 9 years ago, just after midnight during an unusually calm evening. The ocean had become strangely still that night. Even the wind seemed quieter than usual. At first, he noticed only a dark shape moving slowly beyond the rocks below the lighthouse cliffs. Then the great creature rose from the water, silent, enormous, calm. Moonlight reflected softly across its dark back while pale mist drifted upward from its breath before fading into the cold night air. Martin remembered standing completely still near the window, unable to look away. The whale circled the island once before disappearing again into the darkness beyond the lighthouse beam. The following year, it returned, and the year after that, always alone, always silent, always appearing near the island during the coldest nights of autumn. Owen believes the whale simply follows an ancient migration route older than maps and shipping lanes. Perhaps the lighthouse only happens to stand along its path through the northern sea. Martin is less certain. At times he wonders whether the creature remembers the lighthouse itself. After all, the tower has stood upon the island for more than a century. Its lantern has turned through fog, snow, storms, and endless winter nights. Perhaps somewhere deep beneath the dark water, the whale learned to recognize that distant turning light. Neither man truly knows. And over time, they have stopped trying to solve the mystery completely. Some things, they believe, do not need an answer. Tonight, the sea feels unusually calm once again. Martin notices it first while standing near the cottage window with his tea resting untouched beside him. The waves have softened against the rocks below the cliffs. The wind has almost disappeared completely, leaving the island wrapped in a strange and gentle stillness. Even the gulls resting near the shoreline remain quiet tonight. Owen says nothing at first, though he notices it too. After many years beside the lighthouse, both men have learned how to listen to the moods of the sea. And tonight, the ocean feels different. Far beyond the outer rocks, something large moves beneath the water. Slowly, the dark shape rises into the moonlight. The whale has returned. Its body is enormous, far larger than the small fishing boats near the mainland harbour where Owen once worked many years ago. Water rolls gently across its dark skin as it moves through the silver reflection of the lighthouse beam. The creature moves without hurry, without fear, without sound. A slow breath rises above the water before fading into the cold northern air like pale smoke. Martin watches quietly from beside the window. Owen remains standing near the cottage door, one hand resting against the old wooden frame. Neither man speaks. There is nothing they need to say. The whale circles the island slowly, passing once through the moving light from the lighthouse tower. For a brief moment, the lantern glow crosses its great back before sliding away again into darkness. Then the creature turns toward the open sea. Gradually, it disappears once more beyond the mist and distant black water. The ocean becomes empty again. Only the sound of small waves remains below the cliffs. Steady, patient, endless. Much later that evening, the two old keepers prepare for sleep. Owen lowers the lantern controls for the nightly inspection before making his final climb down the narrow iron stairs. Martin closes the weather journal carefully and places it back upon the shelf beside dozens of older entries collected over many years. Outside, the lighthouse beam continues turning slowly across the sea, unchanging, reliable. The cottage grows warmer as the stove burns softly through the night. Orange firelight flickers gently across the stone walls, while the old clock near the window continues its quiet ticking. The kettle has long since grown cold. For a while, Martin remains seated near the window, watching the distant water beneath the moonlight. Perhaps the whale will return again next autumn. Perhaps it has already travelled far into the dark northern sea beyond the horizon. He does not know. And somehow, the mystery itself feels comforting, like the tide against the rock, like the turning lantern above the tower, like the cold wind crossing the island each evening. Some things continue quietly through the years without needing to be fully understood. Owen places another piece of cedar wood into the stove before settling slowly into his chair. The room grows softer now, warmer, quieter. Outside, the sea moves endlessly beneath the moonlit sky, while far above the cliffs, the lighthouse continues watching over the dark water, as it always has. And inside the small stone cottage, beside the tower, the two old keepers rest peacefully while the island settles into silence once more, until eventually there is only the sound of distant waves, the slow turning lantern above the sea, and the quiet feeling of another long northern night gently drifting onward through darkness, through mist, through calm and endless water, toward rest.
you.